coming up next, that's right, we have the lawyer extraordinaire, Mr. Omar Figueroa, whose recent book, 2023 Cannabis Laws and Regulations, is now available out on Amazon and anywhere else you can actually buy books at anymore nowadays, because they're all basically going to digitized. But it actually is a hard copy, and I recommend you getting one. I know I got one, but it's already packed up because we're moving out of here today. That's right. It is the man that will represent you in court, and you'll probably win, Mr. Omar Figueroa.
Thank you, Jason. Happy Friday, everyone. My story is from The Gothamist by Caroline Lewis. The headline is Shark-like investors emerge as New York officials court out-of-state money for cannabis startups. State cannabis officials are trying to attract more investors to New York to help dispensary operators get their businesses up and running, a process that has been slower than anticipated. But state rules make it difficult for some established cannabis investors to enter the retail market. And New Yorkers who have marijuana dispensary licenses say they are receiving unsavory offers from the investors interested so far. One thing we are warning our members about is predatory and shark-like tactics, parasitic tactics that investors are using to take their equity, said Jeremy Rivera, a co-founder of the New York Card Coalition, an independent group that provides services to those in the state's Conditional Adult Use Retail Dispensary Program, or CARD. All CARD licensees must have a past marijuana conviction or a family member with a past conviction and experience running a successful business. New York could be a major part of the legal cannabis market in the U.S., which brought in about $30 billion in 2022, according to a recent report from the industry publication MJ Biz Daily. Ahead of the launch of New York's adult use market in December, the outlet projected that legal sales here could top $1 billion in the first year, growing to more than $2 billion by 2026. But Rivera said some of the investors he's spoken to at cannabis conferences have raised concerns about the illicit market eating into legal sales, something New York lawmakers are trying to address. Their evaluations of what they feel the business is worth are really low, and as a result, they are offering card licensees in unfavorable terms in exchange for startup capital, he said. Dan Morena has a license to open a dispensary in Manhattan and is in the process of raising funds. He said he has found some promising investors, but fielded several shady offers in the process. Morena said a common proposal he has heard from investors is to offer funding in exchange for a 49% ownership stake in the company, the largest amount allowable under state rules, while also taking over operations. It's a bad business decision to completely rely on an outside party who are strangers to both fund and run your business, said Morena, who advises early-stage startups through his firm Redemptive Technology. It's just a terrible idea. Rivera, who has a license to open a dispensary in Queens, said he is relying on funds from friends and family. That means he gets to retain more control of his business, but it limits how much money he can raise. Everybody is a blue-collar worker, so they work hard for their money, Rivera said. Rivera was working at a Card Coalition table Wednesday at the MJ Unpacked Cannabis Business Conference in Midtown. He said he wants to help educate license holders about what to look out for as they seek financing. Elsewhere at the conference, Axel Burnaby, the Senior Policy Director of the New York's Office of Cannabis Management, was trying to convince investors to put their money in the state's burgeoning legal retail market. We are really interested in attracting capital, Burnaby said during a talk at the event's Investor Summit. We have one of the states that's most exposed to global tourism. But Burnaby had to defend the state's regulation against criticism from audience members. Some investors said they had talked to dispensary licensees to form partnerships, but they didn't think they could because state cannabis laws bars investors with stakes in grow operations anywhere in the country from having a stake in a retail company in New York. Burnaby said that the two-tier system takes some getting used to, but he said it is meant to promote mom-and-pop retail market, similar to the landscape for liquor stores, rather than allowing big companies to take over. He also added that there could be some flexibility for those with smaller investments across tiers. One audience member also raised concerns that the Office of Cannabis Management is not sharing data on sales at the few legal dispensaries that are up and running so far. They said other states regularly share that information. Burnaby responded that more data would be forthcoming, but not necessarily right away. The last year and a half, we've really been focused on licensing, he said. So our data analytic capacities are being built out, and it's probably not the first priority. Aaron Geidelman, a spokesperson for the Office of Cannabis Management, confirmed the agency is not sharing that data at the moment. The headline is Shark-like investors emerge as New York officials court out-of-state money for cannabis startups. My take is the wolves of Wheat Street are definitely out there, and one easy way to tell what motivates them is to offer them some cannabis for personal use. If they're not into cannabis, it's an indicator that where there's no smoke, there's no fire. What do the other correspondents think? This is Omar Figueroa, lawyer, publisher, and Ganjier instructor, reporting from Sonoma County, California, the traditional territory of the Pomo, Miwok, and Wapo nations for High at 9, high noon Eastern.